we came up with the Tenbrooks model. That was before we worked together. You know, we came up with the Tenbrooks line. Uwe thought of that name. Uwe thought of Tenbrooks, Molly and Tenbrooks, you know, the racehorse, and we were in the car. Uwe's always been with Deering. Uwe's like this shadow that's always been with Deering behind, because he's always inspiring me with things, and he knows that I'm working on things and trying to. Doesn't matter what it is, you know, trying to figure out if it's marketing or materials or whatever. And Uwe is then always interested as well. He reads up on it, and Uwe is very smart, as you know. And he always supports me, you know, he reads me things when we're, you know, so Uwe is always, so he came up with the name Tenbrooks.
It was a brilliant name, and I loved it the instant I heard it. And almost as quickly as I fell in love with it, the idea of calling the first model the Saratoga.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the famous race courses.
Yes.
And, when it's something that's meant to be, things just start falling into place.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting experience too, because you said to us, it needs to have really different inlays. It needs to have very special art done on the inlays. It needs to be Art Nouveau. And you need to go find a college art professor that's an expert in Nouveau, or somebody that really knows it, and have them draw some inlay patterns.
Right.
And we'd been working with an artist who's a long-time graduate from the LA Art Institute, who's one of the old school guys that could still do it with his hand on a computer.
Yeah, that's how it's done, yeah.
He's the one that did all the artwork on our Good Time box and
that's
that kind
right.
of, and helped us with our first color catalogs. His name was Bob Doss. So I gave the challenge to Bob, and he drew an inlay. It was pretty nice. And I showed it to you, and he goes, "No, that's not what I like. But that's not what I mean. That's not Nouveau." And as soon as you said that, I went, this is like the U and the V. There's something about the European timeline and culture and the U.S. culture that's different.
Art Nouveau in Europe was slightly different than in America.
And so I started studying Art Nouveau in Europe, and we had a Victorian period in the United States where everything was gingerbready and fancy, and it's like this philosophy of Victorian in the United States for Christmas decoration was too much is not enough.
Yeah.
So it's this very flamboyant, luxury, highly decorated period, and the Nouveau came out of that in the United States to kind of break with that tradition, and they started doing similar scroll work, but they make it asymmetrical.
Exactly.
Victorian had to always be symmetrical.
Oh, yeah.
And they make it asymmetrical. Well, what I found out in Europe, you didn't really have the same flamboyant Victorian period we had. The Victorian period in Europe was more formal and stiff. And when you started getting into the Nouveau period, it was grabbing from some of the U.S. Victorian.
Yes.
So after studying that, I had one of those moments where I just sat down and started sketching, and there's the Saratoga Star.
Yeah,
and it was inspired because of what you were saying we needed to do, and pushing the envelope and reaching for something that was special.
But still, you know, when you look at, you know, this has been 18 years ago now, something like that, you know. And when you look at the design, it's going to be timeless. I think this is really the Saratoga inlay pattern is beautiful. Tony Trischka, he just instantly fell in love with it when he saw it. You know,
I made that one that Bob Doss drew. I made a banjo for that, and eventually gave it to you. And I think, didn't you give it to Anya or Miriam?
I gave it to Miriam.
Miriam?
Yeah, all the banjos that are very precious to me, I'd give to family members, so I'd never get rid of them.
There you go. So anyway, years later, Tony Trischka is playing a Saratoga Star and really loves it. And he was asking me, how did you come up with these inlays? They're so good. And I said it was from studying Mocha, who is a Polish artist that spent most of his life in Paris. One of the first really successful commercial artists, did incredibly famous stuff. And I'd studied his work a lot, and that influenced me on the Saratoga. And he goes, "You like Mocha?" He goes, "Mocha's my favorite artist." And he goes, "Can we design a Tony Trischka model that's inspired by Mocha?" Well, Saratoga already was, but he wanted to do something new. So I started studying Mocha again. and drawing and drawing and drawing, and I just wasn't getting inspired. We even had a chance to be in Paris when we were over there visiting music stores, and I kept doing everything I could to find some Mocha artwork in the artists in the museum so I could see it. And I finally got to one museum that actually had Mocha. And the people say, well, it's up there on the second floor. And I go to the second floor, and I couldn't find it. And then I go back and say, where is it? Well, it's up there. And I go there and couldn't find it. Finally, I grabbed one of the helpers there in the museum, and they took me up there. And I'd been walking through this storefront with display cases that were just there looking for paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out the whole storefront and all the display cases were Mocha. And so I studied it a lot. And the stuff that I drew for Tony he didn't like, wasn't hitting the note. And then out of desperation, because I really wanted to get the project moving, I sent him the stuff that Bob Doss drew. Mm-hmm. That wasn't what you wanted in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And he fell in love with it. So that's the new Tony Trischka model.
That's the new Tony Trischka model.